US to provide Ukraine with $8 billion in military aid, including JSOW bombs for F-16s. Russia intensifies strikes on civilian infrastructure in Ukraine with deadly guided aerial bombings. Ukraine takes part in the UN General Assembly and Security Council meetings. You will find key takeaways and statements in our latest news episode. Hi, I'm Zhenia Melnyk and this is United 24 Media. The US is to provide Ukraine with close to $8 billion in military aid, including JSOW long-range bombs for F-16s. US President Joe Biden made this announcement in the White House on September 26 during his meeting with President Zelenskyy, where they met to discuss the strategy of Ukraine's victory plan.
Right now we have to strengthen Ukraine's position on the battlefield. And that's why today I'm proud to announce a new $2.4 billion package of security assistance. I've also directed the Pentagon to allocate all the remaining security assistance funding that has been appropriated to Ukraine, period, by the end of my term, which is January 20.
The new support package from the Department of Defense is valued at $2.4 billion and includes key defensive capabilities such as one additional Patriot air defense battery, unmanned aerial systems, air-to-ground munitions, MRAM missiles, and long-range JSOW cruise bombs. An expanded F-16 flight training program with 18 more pilots will also be conducted next year. Since Biden directed the DoD to allocate all the remaining funding pertinent to Ukraine by the end of his term, this means an additional $5.5 billion to boot, totaling just shy of $8 billion in support.
Our teams will work together to ensure the implementation of our future steps. And today in the morning, I've met with both Senate and the House, and thank you for the unwavering bipartisan support, and to all American people. Together, we have to win, and we will win. Thank you.
Previously, President Zelenskyy met with the US bipartisan representative groups in the Senate to present the Ukrainian victory plan and strengthen the relationship between both parties, whether Republican or Democrat, with an additional meeting scheduled with Donald Trump later on September 27. Vice President Kamala Harris pledged the White House's support for Ukraine in a meeting with President Zelenskyy in Washington, D.C. on September 26. Zelenskyy noted on his Telegram channel it is of key importance for Kyiv to be on the same page with Washington and work in total congruence with its partners.
History has shown us, if we allow aggressors like Putin to take land with impunity, they keep going. And Putin could set his sights on Poland, the Baltic states, and other NATO allies.
Harris also pointed out that any behind-the-scenes talks of ending the war with Russia resulting in giving Moscow temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories will not be tolerated by the United States.
President Zelenskyy, I am clear. Putin started this war, and he could end it tomorrow if he simply withdrew his troops from Ukraine's sovereign territory. Nothing about the end of this war can be decided without Ukraine. However, in candor, I share with you, Mr. President, there are some in my country who would instead force Ukraine to give up large parts of its sovereign territory, who would demand that Ukraine accept neutrality and would require Ukraine to forego security relationships with other nations. These proposals are the same of those of Putin. And let us be clear, they are not proposals for peace. Instead, they are proposals for surrender, which is dangerous and unacceptable.
Volodymyr Zelenskyy reiterated the mounting need to strengthen Ukrainian airspace and shield the civilian population from Russian bombings, which have intensified over recent weeks.
We have to end this war. We need a just peace, and we must protect our people, Ukrainian families, Ukrainian children, and everyone from Putin's civil. And we are grateful to America for supporting Ukraine all along.
To follow the latest news from Ukraine, subscribe to our YouTube channel. The European Union and over 30 other countries adopted the declaration on Ukraine's reconstruction at the G7 meeting, stated the Office of the President of Ukraine. On September 26, Zelenskyy announced a joint commitment that would aid in Ukraine's recovery with tangible support expected to arrive this year, including $50 billion of immobilized Russian assets.
After the devastating Second World War, the Allies launched the Marshall Plan, which gave peace the strength to become truly lasting. And today we are laying the foundation for a similar architecture of recovery, one that will promote peace for Ukraine and all of Europe and the general welfare.
US President Joe Biden, who was also at the meeting in New York, promised to accelerate support for Ukrainian forces following his closing statement.
Today we're launching a joint declaration of support for Ukraine, recovery and reconstruction to make it clear we stand with Ukraine, now and in the future. That starts on the battlefield. I'm determined to ensure that Ukraine has what it needs to prevail in its fight for survival.
At the same meeting, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced new aid for Ukraine to help withstand Russian aggression.
The G7 partners in Puglia announced the $50 billion loan to Ukraine. And I'm pleased to confirm that Europe will be providing up to 35 billion euros. This loan will be repaid by the windfall profits of the immobilized Russian assets.
As the G7 meeting came to a close, world leaders gathered on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in a display of unity for Ukraine. The Defense Intelligence of Ukraine reports retaking the Vovchansk aggregate plant from Russian occupiers. On September 24th, the DIU press service posted combat footage along with this announcement on their Telegram channel. The factory was breached and cleared by Ukrainian intelligence units with the help of Belarusian and Russian volunteer corps. The Ukrainian defenders eliminated the Russian troops in close-quarter battle, taking prisoners for the exchange fund along the way. The Vovchansk aggregate plant plays a key role on the front line due to its proximity to Kharkiv city. Its enormous territory consists of 30 buildings and was turned into a propaganda stronghold by the occupying elite Russian forces, such as the infamous 45th Guards Spetsnaz Brigade, noted the DIU press service. The plant was founded in 1970 and was manufacturing hydraulics and aviation machinery before the full-scale war, but today is a thorn in the side of the Russian ongoing war of aggression, stated the Institute for the Study of War. Moscow targeted Kramatorsk in the Donetsk region, killing 2 people and injuring 19, among them 3 children, informed local military administration head Vadim Filashkin via Telegram. He stated that during daytime hours, Russia dropped at least 2 guided aerial bombs on the city, killing 2 residents and injuring children.
I was in the kitchen when the bombs fell. My kid was in the hall together with my husband. Then glasses suddenly shattered in my direction. I was frightened and thought it was the end.
Filashkin called out Russia for this act of terror and promised retaliation for each war crime Moscow commits in the Donetsk region and across Ukraine against the civilian population. Russia hit a police department in Kryvyi Rih in a missile strike, killing at least 1 woman, reports the head of the Defense Council, Alexander Vilkul. The Russian strike destroyed the administrative building and damaged private houses nearby. Police and rescuers from the State Emergency Service are currently working at the scene as the body of a woman was uncovered beneath the debris. As of now, there may still be 3 people trapped under the rubble, reported Vilkul. Sappers disposed of a Russian FAB-500 aerial bomb found undetonated in the Zaporizhzhia region. Footage was released on September 24th showing the hazardous work of Ukrainian demining unit. Local residents found the bomb lying in the brush and called the State Emergency Service, stated one of the sappers. He also noted the difficulty of disposing of such ordnance, which comes from the self-destruct mechanism embedded in the bomb that could set it off within 5 days. Since the bomb was found near a residential area, sappers decided to detonate it immediately. The FAB-500 is a Soviet-era general-purpose airdrop bomb. The F in the name comes from the fugas charge embedded in its 500-kilogram payload. It is designed to target fortified strongholds, railroad tracks, bunkers, or buildings. Usually it's dropped from a designated fighter bomber jet and is unguided. However, Russians have since modernized the bomb with the UMPK, a unified gliding and correction module kit, which has transformed it into a glide bomb. This allows Moscow to terrorize the civilian population of Kharkiv and Zaporizhzhia, which were previously out of range of these imprecise weapons. Ukraine is taking part in the UN Security Council meeting, saying Moscow is preparing to strike its nuclear power plants. President Zelenskyy warned the council, which convened on September 24th, that Kyiv has obtained proof of Russian plans to hit nuclear energy sites across Ukraine.
As we near the third winter of this war, Russia is once again trying to destroy our energy system, and this fall they are being even more cynical. They are preparing to target our nuclear power plants, 3 of them. We have this information, and we have proof of this.
The UN Security Council discussed the ongoing developments on the war in Ukraine, with Russia receiving unsanctioned support from worldwide dictatorships, as noted by US State Secretary Antony Blinken.
Iran has been providing armed drones to the Kremlin since 2022. It built a drone factory in Russia. Just a few weeks ago, it transferred hundreds of short-range ballistic missiles to Russia. And Tehran has trained Russian military personnel in Iran how to operate these weapons. Meanwhile, the DPRK has delivered trainloads of weapons and ammunition to Russia, including ballistic missiles, launchers, and millions of artillery rounds. Support from Tehran and Pyongyang is helping Putin inflict carnage, suffering, and ruin on innocent Ukrainian men, women, and children.
Among other remarks aimed directly at Russia, United Kingdom's Foreign Secretary David Lammy told the Council that he knows imperialism when he sees it, and he will call it out for what it is.
Vladimir Putin, when you fire missiles into Ukraine hospitals, we know who you are. When you send mercenaries into African countries, we know who you are. When you murder opponents in European cities, we know who you are. Your invasion is in your own interests, yours alone, to expand your mafia state into a mafia empire.
The summer period hit a new high in civilian casualties, with 3,000 recorded victims, including 589 killed. This was reported by the Norwegian Refugee Council, citing the United Nations Human Rights Monitoring Group on September 23rd. According to the data, the summer of 2024 saw the highest 3-month period of civilian casualties since the start of the full-scale war with Russia. Powerful missiles and bombs have struck populated areas, killing and injuring civilians across the country, said head of the HRMMU Daniel Bell. Targeted attacks on Ukraine's critical energy infrastructure have again triggered lengthy nationwide power cuts, while recent attacks have destroyed or damaged hospitals, schools and supermarkets, reported the head of the monitoring group. A missile that killed the Reuters safety advisor in Ukraine in August was fired by Russian forces, says Ukrainian Intelligence. In previously unreported details on the August 24th attack, Ukrainian security sources said the missile was launched from a site close to Taganrog, a Russian city on the coast of the Sea of Azov near the Ukrainian border. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said in a written statement to Reuters that the Russian Iskander ballistic missile was fired and struck the Sapphire Hotel in Kramatorsk, where the Reuters team were staying. Ryan Evans, a 38-year-old former British soldier who had worked as a safety advisor for Reuters since 2022, was killed instantly. Kramatorsk, which lies only 20 kilometers from the front line, is comfortably within striking distance of Iskander systems based in Taganrog, some 190 kilometers to the southeast. The missiles have a maximum range of 500 kilometers. Since Russia's invasion in February 2022, the hotel was used only by journalists and at a management discretion. And now for some cute news. A Weddel seal baby was just born near the Ukrainian Vernadsky research station in the Antarctic. The researchers chose to name it Sea Baby after the famous Ukrainian unmanned naval drone developed by the Security Service of Ukraine. Sea Baby is 10 days old today, stated the scientist, and he is growing quickly on his mother's milk and may soon make his first trip to the ocean. This is it for today. We are United 24 Media. Thank you for being with us and see you next week.